Hey gang, so hopefully you've all come prepared with some content that you have been busy creating over the last week. The good news is if you haven't done the challenge, other than a slap on the wrist from yourself to yourself, you can still progress with the challenge this week by using some content that you've already prepared at some point in the past. I'll run through the normal stuff before we get into the challenge. Week 1, we did avatar work. Week 2, we created a leads list. That leads list is going to be absolutely paramount to today. So my hope is that you've all got a list of 200 targets and a list of 30 to focus on. That's my hope. Week 3, we did messaging. Week 4, we did a marketing plan. And then last week, we did a challenge to create some content. This week, we're going to take that content and we're going to turn it into a series of social media, LinkedIn style posts. Here's what we're going to cover today. So we're going to start with a quick recap, looking back at last week's content marketing challenge. So Lisa, you are going to get the apple in the room here, I would imagine. We're going to take some time to discuss or share and discuss feedback, where you'll have an opportunity just to talk about the content that you've created and any wins that you had from creating that content last week. So after that, I'll introduce today's challenge, which is going to focus on LinkedIn to connect you with your target 200. And we're going to promote the content that you've created to the target 200 and others. I'm then going to share a little bit of my IP, stuff that came out of my head, not other people's stuff that I've read from books. And I'm going to give you the GER model. Love it. Which is a framework that I have used really successfully over the last, I'd say 18 months for LinkedIn outreach and to build connections with target audience. I'm going to give you some ideas for breaking down a single piece of content into a number of different pieces to give you the ability to repurpose one piece of content. And then we're going to go into a breakout session where you can come together to talk about some of the ideas that you've got and create a little plan for what you're going to do this week. And then finally, to help you boost your content's visibility, I'm going to share some tips on maximizing your reach and performance, which in the link Accelerator we'll go into in much more detail, but I thought I'd give you some top tips to help you boost your engagement. And then we'll wrap up. So that is that. Last week we focused on content marketing, and I challenged you to create a piece of content which was tailored specifically to your avatar and the messaging that you created. So the goal was to take everything that you'd learned so far and put it into action by developing content that really resonated with your target audience and that supported your overall marketing plan. Some of you created blog posts, videos, infographics, case studies. Doesn't matter what it was. The idea was to give you or to create something that would give you a clear call to action and drive engagement from your audience, which ultimately leads to higher conversion. So I want to make it a little bit more interactive for this session. So why don't we start by talking about what content you did create and any challenges that you came up with. So Sarah May, stop the video and we will make everyone nice and big.
I'm recording.
All right, so everyone has we shouldn't have started recording, but that's fine. We'll just edit it out. Has everyone got a piece of content that they've previously created, if not this last week, that they could base the next challenge off? Has anyone not got a piece of content that they could base this week off? I'm going to assume the silence means that everyone can think of something that they've done, a blog, a video, whatever it is, a podcast, that you could base the next bit off. Perfect. Okay. Today's challenge is the LinkedIn content challenge. We are going to focus specifically on two tasks, two separate challenges this week. So the first is to connect with as many people as possible from your target 200 list using the GER model and look, like, comment, share. And then the second thing is to use the content that you created last week to craft 5 different posts on LinkedIn that are going to go out over the next 7 days, each with a different angle or focus. I'm so proud of this, by the way, because I came up with this all on my own. I used to call it the G in 4 Rs or 5 Rs, and then realized it was much more funny to call it a GER model. And none of you are going to have a clue what this is all about, but I have used this model really successfully to land me Hal Elrod as a speaker, Bob Berg as a speaker, Michael Lennington as a speaker, Richard Wildman. Like, I've used it to get people out way outside my sphere of influence, way outside my network. No one referred me into these people. I used this model to get them to know me, like me, and trust me enough to have a conversation, which I think is golden in today's day and age. The first part of the GER model is set a goal. Who is it that you want to contact? We know what your goal is. Your goal is, a few weeks ago, you created a list of 200 people that fit your avatar as someone that could be a potential customer for you. So the goal needs to be, I want to ultimately be able to connect with these people so I can communicate with them, so they know who I am and I can communicate with them. So set a goal, define the objective. Then you need to do some research. You need to find out where they are. You need to find out where they hang out, what their company is. You need to understand what their job description is, what their companies, what the cultures. You need to do some research. Once you've done some research into these people, the 200 people or the 30 people, if you're going to do a lightweight challenge, you could do the focus on 30, and that would be fine too. But if you want real success in the next couple of weeks, my encouragement would be hit your target 200 list. Once you have done some research, I think it's really important to find something or things about that individual that you can relate to. That might be, you know, someone that they know. That might be that they live in the same town. That might be that they posted a picture of kids that are the same age. That might be that you support the same sports team. It could be anything. But it's really important when you're going to reach out in the next R, the second to next R, that you've got something that's going to be a little bit of a binder, relate. The next one is actually, there should be two, but the next one is reach out. No, in fact, it's not reach out. The next one is reveal yourself to the person. So what that means, when you reveal yourself to someone, I'm not talking about taking a long jacket and exposing yourself. I'm talking about the fact that this person probably doesn't know you. And the way that you reveal yourself is by going to their profile and looking at their profile and then going, look, comment, love, comment, love. The simplified version that they used to teach at Action Coach was look, comment, share. And you could probably do look, comment, share and have someone's attention. But actually, if you really want to get someone's attention, if you really want to get their attention and reveal yourself, go deep on their profile, go deep on their posts, and because all of a sudden that person's notifications will be Raymonda just liked, Raymonda just commented, and all of a sudden they're like, who the is Raymonda? She's amazing. All of a sudden she's all over my profile, and they will come and they will look at you. And in that moment, you are known by that person. Trust me, time and time again, this works for me. Hal Elrod, Bob Berg, Michael Lennington, all of those guys, this is what I did. The next star is reach out. Once you've revealed yourself, once such and such person knows that Raymonda's looking at their profile, Raymonda then needs to reach out to them and go, hey, I've been looking at your profile and I love it. Here's this thing that I found is a connection between you and I. I found you because you're friends with such, and I looked at your profile and it's great. I'd love to connect. That's the next step. So the reach out is the connection request. And then finally, if all else fails, you need to repeat it because it doesn't happen automatically. I'm still working on Mel Robbins and I'm still working on Brene Brown, and they're not responding to me yet, but they bloody will. They will. And I'll get them at some point. It might take me a year. It might take me 2 years. It might take me 5 years, but they're going to know who I am. So there we go. This, I think, is a phenomenal model for getting you known by anyone. So there we go. That's a freebie. Okay, so once you've done that, once you've connected with your 200 people, we move on to the second part of this challenge, which is breaking down your content into smaller pieces that you can use on a daily basis. So here are 10 things that I think that you could do with this one piece of content that you've created that will split it into 5. So the first up, you could create a teaser post. So create some curiosity by hinting at the problem or theme in your content without giving too much away. For those of you who pay attention, you might have noticed that before we ever launch a new speaker, or we do a new webinar series, or indeed the Accelerator, or there's an animal quiz, there is always, without fail, a teaser post that goes out first with imagery showing what's coming and us going, oh, so excited for this thing to happen. And all of a sudden, the people that are paying attention to us go, oh, what's this thing? I can't wait for this. It's going to be great, because they want to communicate. So teaser posts are an absolutely brilliant way of creating an additional mileage from a post, from a piece of content. Next up, you could use a key statistic or insight. Lisa just shared with us in the video a bunch of statistics that I can't remember off the top of my head anymore because I'm a little bit cold and fluey, but she could easily just take one of those statistics and just riff off of that one thing and say, there's more on this coming in my video, or more on this coming in the blog, or whatever it is. Key statistic or insight that you can just go a bit deeper on. Next up, behind the scenes. Show the process behind creating your content. What inspired you to write it or produce it in the first place? You could choose a quote or an excerpt from something. Pull a powerful quote from the content and use it to spark engagement. So another piece, probably with a selfie and a quote. Great way to get more mileage from a single piece of content. You could poll or ask a question based on the content's theme. Ask your audience a thought-provoking question. You could produce a personal story. Why is it so important? Why did you decide to create this piece of content for this audience? Lisa, that should be so simple with you, because middle management shouldn't be shit. What is it deep in your soul that makes you believe that to be true? Speaking again to the target audience. You could create a case study. Use a real world example of people that you've helped to highlight the impact of the strategies in your content. You could create a video summary. So record a short video where you summarize the key takeaways from your content. Wouldn't work for you, Lisa, but for some of you who did a blog, so for Nikki, for example, you could absolutely do that. I understand the dread that comes from having to do that. It took me probably 3 years to get the courage to do it, but it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. It's gone in a moment, and it's never as bad as, yeah, you imagine it will be. So maybe a video summary would work for some of you. Next up, infographic or visual, just explaining the content that's coming, or explaining the content that's coming. And then finally, a call to action post. So create a post which is going to drive people to your content with a strong call to action. So there we go, gang. There's 10 ideas for posts on LinkedIn. And I want you to try and come up with 5. So we've got, is there 8 of us on the call? I think there's 8 of us on the call. What I'm going to suggest, Laura, should we do groups of 4? Sarah takes some and I'll take some. How does that sound? I know I'm putting you on the spot now, Laura. Apologies.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Don't worry.
I think we probably, let's take 10 minutes and everyone can do a high level. This is the piece of content. And then these are some of the things that I'm thinking I might do, and see whether people have got any ideas. So for you and me, it's important to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to speak. Yeah, cool. All right, open the rooms, Laura.
How many minutes?
I think 10.
Okay.
Thank you, Don. Okay, so hopefully everyone's got a bit of a plan of the content, or the social media LinkedIn content that they're going to create this week to push people towards the content that they created last week. Next up, I don't know whether I need to cover this. Here's a suggestion on how you might structure your post. So if it was me doing, this is what I would do. I would do a teaser introducing the content, so revealing a little bit without giving too much away. The fact that Ray has just told me that she's been doing a week's worth of teasers already makes me believe that it's actually marketing best practice.
I've seen them, Ray. I've seen them.
There you go. Yeah. I think it's marketing best practice to do a teaser. It's just gonna widen the interest. Then I'd do a visual post or an infographic. Then the thing that I find that works the best for me is always a short video or story. Here's a little bit about the backstory as to why I created this. This is what I've created. This is where it is. Always works incredibly well for me. Then if I was you, I would do a case study or some sort of personal insight, and then a direct post with a strong CTA. Of course, you might find, and something that I didn't put on here but actually I think could work well for all of you, is a poll. Polls do incredibly well on LinkedIn. People are compelled to answer polls in the same way that they do quizzes. So if one of those doesn't float your boat, then maybe put a poll in. So that's that. Okay. Reach and performance. Ultimately, the end goal of these challenges is you've connected with 200 people who are your prospects. And just to remind you why that's important, right? I once had a client with 10,000 connections, and she was in, I'm not going to talk about the industry she was in, but needless to say, when we identified her actual target market, and then we went away and we looked at her contacts on LinkedIn, there was a minuscule amount of actual people that were her actual prospects. Loads of past co-workers and stuff like that, loads of people who she'd met from networking, but very few people that were her target market from an avatar perspective. If you have got 1,000 people, but there's only 5 or 6 or 10 or even 100 that are potentially going to buy from you, the first thing you need to do is up the number of fish that are swimming around in your pond that are potentially going to bite, because otherwise you're going to create content and it won't land and you won't get the results. So in terms of maximizing reach and performance, there are some strategies that I've put together that I think that should help you. So number one, use hashtags strategically. So stick to 3 or 5 relevant hashtags, mixing in broader ones with niche specific ones. Hashtags do work really well. And number 2 might seem obvious, post optimal times. Peak LinkedIn times are between 8 and 10 and 12 and 2. Whenever you see me post, unless it's me just doing something completely on the spur of the moment, I'll still try and be a little bit strategic about that when I post. It's very seldom that I'll do one at random times of the day. Almost all of my posts go out at 7 a.m., 7:05, something like that, 7:20. So because I know that 8 and 10 is the sweet spot when most people are looking. And if you really want to drive engagement, get into that habit of posting at optimal times. You need to encourage comment and engagement. So ask open-ended questions, get people to share their thoughts, which will boost interaction. The way that the LinkedIn algorithms work is that they, when you have someone that comments on something, it's worth about 4 or 5 times as much as someone liking something or loving something. So the more comments you get, the further it will go. So it's really important to try to get people to comment by open-ended question. And then as important is responding quickly. So early engagement is really key. So reply to the comments as soon as it's possible to do so to boost your visibility. And then include visuals or videos. It's obvious. And really what this should say is not visuals, it's selfies or professional photos of you. If you really want to boost your performance this week, use selfie and videos, in my opinion. All right. LinkedIn articles can be a really good way of finding new channels for your content. You will be put in front of people who have got nothing to do with you right now, but everything to do with the specific niche thing that you're doing. So I would encourage you to look at LinkedIn articles and then go away and put meaningful thought leadership comment behind it. You might choose to tag relevant influencers or brands. I don't really ever do this, to be honest with you, but I know some people do. My thought on tagging influencers is tagging anyone. In fact, if you're going to tag someone, make damn sure that they're going to respond. If you tag someone and they look at it and they don't comment on your post, that will stifle your results moving forward. It's done it several times for me. Like if you're going to tag someone, make sure they tag you back. Now, if you tag me, I promise you I'll comment. What I'd like to try and get to is we can make an agreement that if someone tags us from this group, we will do what we can to comment back quickly to support each other and help boost the engagement. But yeah, there we go. That's up to you. And again, if you tag Mastermind 9 or Outside Ideas, we will absolutely respond. You can use LinkedIn polls. We've used these really successfully. And what LinkedIn polls do is they bring the stalkers to play. The people who never comment on your stuff, but they're watching you, all of a sudden they'll respond to a poll, and all of a sudden you've got them. So I like LinkedIn polls a lot. You could cross-promote posts. If any of you are on Instagram, I think Ray's possibly the only one that this is relating to. But if you send people from Instagram to LinkedIn, for example, or vice versa, they love that and they will push that much further. And then obviously a strong call to action. You really need to get into the habit of including a clear call to action, whether it's encouraging comment or downloads or further engagement. So for you, everything should be download my free guide, download the 6 steps. So yeah, there we go. That's some tips for you. And I thought I'd recap before I lose my voice completely on what I'm asking you to do today. So your challenge for the next 7 days, should you choose to accept it. I know how busy you are, and I think we're learning a lot about this format and the pace that we're going at, but that's another story. Should you choose to accept it, I would like you to proactively connect with, using the GER model, connect with as many people as you can from your target 200 list. I would then like you to consider and create and publish 5 LinkedIn posts over the next 7 days, using the content that you've created as the conversation. So taking it from different angles to put as much spotlight onto that content as you possibly can. And then obviously keep tabs on how it's all going. Check your engagement. Has anyone ever done their social selling score? No? Okay. That might be interesting to monitor at the start and the end of the week. Can I find this quickly? I'm wrapping up anyway. So I'll do the social selling score at the end in the Q&A. And yeah, keep tabs on how you've done.